Welcome to another episode of Pete's Chop Shop, where we part out what appears to be a perfectly good E39 sedan.
So why are we parting out a E39 BMW sedan? Well, it's my ongoing quest to amass the parts for my E39 BMW station wagon that I plan to put a 2J into it. And it's just been a project that's been on the back burner, but I'm just trying to get a lot of the parts that I need together. And in doing so, I've been trying to source a 6-speed gearbox, a manual, from an E39. And of course, being out there searching around over and over, those gearboxes are expensive. Kind of crazy how expensive they are. Anywhere from $600 all the way up to $1,200, which seems like a lot of money. And of course, these days, people don't want to sell parts for cheap, but what they do want to sell are vehicles. So I bought this 1999 540i sedan for $800 Canadian. So that's about 600 bucks US. And it does have some problems. So this could be a running vehicle that you could put back on the road. However, it hasn't passed our SMOG, so our Canadian E-test, and it's got a bunch of check engine lights for sensors and whatnot, which would require about $1,500 worth of work and parts. And the previous owner said, you know what, I don't want to get into that. So I said, well, you know what, I'll give you 800 bucks for it. Deal was struck. He actually delivered it here, which was an even better thing for me because I didn't have to go out and grab it and tow it and all that jazz. But the car is pretty rusted for a 20-year-old car. It's a typical Canadian vehicle. It's got rust here. It's got rust here, all the way around. Inside, it's actually not that bad looking. The doors are probably locked. Yep, it's got a bunch of electrical issues. So all in all, I think this car is, I mean, as I said, you could put it back on the road, but I think it's ready to go to the scrapyard. So today what we're gonna do is show you how to get pretty much a free transmission out of this type of parts deal. Here we are underneath, and in typical BMW fashion, there's a lot of oil coming from the engine oil pan area, but that doesn't matter to me because what I am looking for is this right here, the granddaddy of them all, the 6-speed, I think it's a Getrag, I'm pretty sure it is. I can't read it, so I don't know. I should know that, but I don't. So this is what we are going to be removing. I did want to touch on a little bit of what I mentioned earlier, and that is buying one of these cars for parts and kind of making your money back on parting it out. I mean, you know, we've got a hoist and everything, but you can certainly do this in your driveway and walk away with something like a gearbox such as this and other parts. Like I'm going to keep the drive shaft and whatnot, maybe pull the clutch out of it. I've got that from the previous wagon, but you can still sell off a lot of these things, wheels and tires, headlights, interior, and break even on it. And it's certainly a great way to do that, to get a lot of the parts that you want for virtually nothing. So my recommendation is always, if you come across a cheap parts car, go for it, and it never hurts because you may even need more parts for your car. So with that being said, I think it is time for us to get down to business here, DP. What do you think?
This car's a fighter, PT. She
know.
Does not want to give it up, but it did give up its heat shields very willingly because all the bolt hole locations were rotted out. So when we dropped the exhaust, which was a bugger to cut through, we had to like bend it off there. But once it came down, the heat shields kind of rained down on top of it, and this last one here is ready to come down too. It's just, I think, sitting on the
Look at that
here, but these are really nice quality heat shields though, aren't they?
They really are.
I've been very impressed by on our E46s how nice the factory heat shields are. So, but as you can see, all these holes here are completely rotted out. So that's Canada Car Life for you. All right, PT, I think we've made enough progress. I think maybe it's time to start working on the actual transmission itself, huh?
You betcha, man. We're getting close here. It's actually not that bad a job once you start removing all this stuff.
Having a lift, man, that's what it's all about.
So that wasn't too awful until we got to a couple of bolts and nuts that are on the opposite side of the starter. So apparently this engine can have starters and transmission, can have starters bolt up on both sides, I guess depending on what area you live in. But because of that, left-hand drive, right-hand drive, but because of that, they put these nuts and bolts in, and of course the header was in the way. It took us a long time to get that done, but I think we are here and ready to separate our gearbox. And I kind of have a little bit of a sketchy setup here, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna, yeah, oh yeah, she's coming, DP.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at this,
Oh yeah.
like a champ. Now, I mean, fortunately I've got it on these wood blocks here, which is not great, but
Ooh, eat a chain while you're at it.
oh, there it is. Look
off.
at that, man. We got the transmission out. Now, let's see if I can back this off here. Unfortunately, the header and the exhaust is in the way on this side. I knew that was going to be a bit of an issue, but I think if I keep
I
driving.
don't know, it looks clearer to me, Pete, if
Yeah,
you keep
does
going
it?
straight back, yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to try to come down with it here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Okay.
you got good. Oh, it's still hung up on the input shaft?
See, well, see the tunnel here? Oh. Or sorry, the bell housing. See these pieces of exhaust?
Yeah.
We didn't remove these, thinking
It's clear
would-
here, but
the Sawzall made easy work of our exhaust here, so it is off. And we're going for attempt number 2. So now I've learned that the bell housing is pretty big, so what I want to do is slowly slide this back. Now, come down a little bit. Yeah, it's coming. There we go. Yeah, we're
got
clear
Ken
on
Wagon
this side, I
coaching
think.
over here.
Sorry, it's stuck on this. I'm trying to be quiet, but it's stuck.
No, why? You
gotta
gotta
go
want to be quiet.
What's that?
There we go. Okay,
No,
you're
it's good. It's good. Okay.
Okay.
Ken brought us some
Back
Tim
heavy.
Hortons, and he never shows up here and not
There we
get
go.
his hands dirty, so.
Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Tranny extraction has happened.
Still heavy. There we go. Sorry.
Move it forward. No, we'll just let it come all the way down here.
Do you see a lot of trannies in the ER, Ken?
Not tranny, not 6-speed trannies.
Oh,
like
not
these
6
bad boys, huh?
Not
Seen
that thing.
6 feet trannies.
Oh, okay. And it is a Getrag.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Here's a question for all the BMW pros. How do you remove the shift knob easily and quickly? I know these are like a locking piece. And God, why? They just never want to come off. I've seen people have to do it this way,
Really?
where they literally, you gotta like mount the thing.
This is getting a little
Weird?
soft core for me.
Yeah,
here,
well,
Pete.
apparently. See, I wasn't lying.
My God.
Wow, BMW, you never cease to amaze me. All right, well, that was a 5-speed shift knob anyways. It is in decent shape, but we've got 6 speeds now, so I'm not gonna need this. I did want to salvage the boot and the shift mechanism, so I think I can pull this in now through the bottom. I'm gonna take a little bit of the trim here, but check this other thing out. I've never seen this on an E39 before. This is an aftermarket part. It says tech on it. Like, look at this thing. It tucks away here and then pops out like this as a cup holder.
So I got one question for you here.
Yeah.
This is a 6-speed transmission,
Yes.
but the shift knob's a 5-speed shift knob?
Yes. The previous owner said the 6-speed shift knob is actually in this car somewhere under a seat. So he had lost it, so he put this 5-speed on there.
Weird.
Yeah. It's a bit of a shame that I'm not taking this motor. It was in good running condition, but it's gonna add to the weight that we're gonna get when we scrap this car or potentially sell it to somebody else. However, I do wanna take these headlights because they are HID My wagon is not. So again, the parts card does come in handy.
Clearly, we've never taken the front bumper off of an E39 before because we made a complete mess of that trying to take the plastic bumper cover off when, in hindsight, I believe it's designed to come off with the rebar. So had we just taken these two bolts out, the whole front cover or bumper cover would have come off with the rebar, but instead we went through and broke off a million little plastic clips that hold it onto the rebar. So terrible idea, just take the whole thing off of the rebar. Would have made life much easier. But now that it's off, it's interesting looking at the engineering of these cars. They're so different than the Japanese stuff that I'm used to looking at. I was particularly interested by the cold air intake system they have. You can see the air box here, and they have this snorkel that goes down and connects to like the front side of the radiator area. So air would come in here, and I suppose up here to some extent as well, and it would get drawn in this way into the air box. So
The definition of cold air, right?
yeah, that's a pretty clever design. And other cool stuff like the remote oil filter actually has braided stainless steel lines that go to it from the factory, which is pretty nice. And I really like the big connectors that BMW uses. They're so easy to like take on and off compared to the Japanese stuff, which I always find to be small fiddly connectors. I break them half the time, where these are like made for big German hands. So it's like, oh, the connectors are just so much easier to use. And they leak oil. At least
Oh, they love to
one
leak
does.
oil.
Look at this oily mess here.
So here is my parts haul. Transmission, headlights, a couple of trim pieces, the drive shaft, the shift linkage. And I think with that wrapped up, let's see, what do we got left on the car here? The wheels and tires, I'm thinking we can probably get $300 for. Let's just say 300 bucks. I think a couple guys will come take a couple parts off. Maybe 100 bucks if I'm lucky, 50 bucks if I'm not. So let's just make it an even $400. And then scrapping the chassis is gonna be about $300. So I'm looking at $600, maybe $700, depending how lucky I get in terms of people coming to buy some parts for all that jazz. And I mean, what's left is all of this. So essentially I have purchased this, all the transmission and all this jazz for around 200 bucks, maybe. As I said, if things go well, it might even be free. So as you can see, parting out a car is never a bad idea if you have the time and the know-how. The beauty of it is you can just cut wires, do whatever you want with it, and people will actually, if you can't take the car away to the scrapyard, people will actually pay you to come get this. So you might lose 100 bucks, but overall you can still scrap a car from your driveway. So I think that's a wrap on this video, DP. What do you think?
Yeah, man, let's call it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video gives you just a little bit more perspective into how you can try to buy some parts for cheap.